Hi, you guys. Happy Monday. Happy new week. Hope everybody week is off to a good start. I am back. Make sure you guys thumbs up the video. I always have to start remembering that. I didn't always used to remember that. So every time I start these live videos, I'm going to remind you guys, like up the video. Because I got some good stuff for y'all. So make sure you are thumbsing up the video. That tells me that you want more videos like these and you enjoy the content. It's helping you in one way, shape, or form. It's doing its purpose, right? Or you just love my family, you just love me, and so you just support, right? So that too. So, oh man, I think I just, I always say, oh man, and I did not realize how much I say, oh man, because Roman says, oh man, all the time. And I was like, where is he getting that from? Oh man, if you tell him he can't have something, oh man, I'm like, where is he getting? I say that a lot, actually. I did not realize how much I say, oh man. He says it a lot now. All right. So I took my notes. I got some notes here because I don't want to forget anything, but I also don't have a lot of time. So if I have to end this fast, I'm sorry. I have to go if I have to go. But anyway, I'm having my little prebiotic soda. These are good. If you know, you know. Poppies are pretty good, I think. Anyway, today I'm going to be responding to a comment. So cheers. As promised, I said I was going to come back. So I'm not a huge fan of poppies. They're good, but I'm not a big fan. The kids like it, but me, not so much. They're good, but I have to have it with like a specific thing for it to be really good. Anyway, I have my notes here and let's get started, shall we? I am responding to a comment and I'm gonna read it word for word. And this was on the video from last week that I was talking about why race, saying that you don't see someone's color is dangerous, and someone commented on that short, and I promised them that I was going to come back with a video, a follow-up video. So this is what they said, just for reference, so you guys know what exactly I'm responding to. They said, since you made this public, but everyone is entitled to the opinion. I'm sure they meant their opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. I'm sure everybody is entitled to their opinion. When I was growing up in Africa, I never saw color. I just saw human beings. It's only when I came to America, I was taught to see skin color. Then I started identifying that. But I didn't have any awareness up until when I was 11, when I came to America. So, yes, someone can tell you they love you without seeing your color. I understand what that means when they say that. Okay? So that's what they had to say about the video where I was talking about one thing to watch out for if you're in any sort of interracial relationship, dating, marriage, whatever, any sort of interracial relationship. One thing to look out for is someone who tells you that they don't see your color, but they see you. That was what she had to, or he, that's what they had to say about that. So, and let's see. I was going to refer you to something, but yeah, hold on just a second. Hi, Grampy. I am going to talk. I'm just going through my notes to make sure I don't miss anything because I'm on a time crunch. I don't want to just start talking and I don't have my notes in the right places. I was just noting, and I actually, yeah, I really don't have my notes in the right places. So I'm a little unorganized, if you will. But see, I forgot what I was going. There's something, I think I wrote it down. Oh my gosh, that I wanted to refer this person to. So I don't forget. Just a second, I'm gonna get to talking. No, I think I might just start talking here and I might forget about what I was gonna say. Oh my gosh, I jotted this down. I can't find it. Oh my gosh. I was trying to refer him or her. I don't know. This is a female or not. I know I wrote that down. Okay, I might just start talking. I can't. That was the first thing I was trying to refer him or her to. This is why I take notes, because I will forget. I got a lot going on, you guys. But I'm also trying to bring educational stuff to you guys as well, because I am very passionate about this. I don't remember the name of the book. There's a book that I was trying to refer this person to, and I do not remember. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't remember. There was a specific book. Let me highlight this quick. What you guys don't know, I do school from home as well. So a lot of what I do, I implement. What I'm talking to you guys about, I plan to also use this with the older kids, because we are learning all about these things, some things that they may not even teach as we know in the school system, which is important. And when I tell you they don't teach it in the school system, they don't. I've seen it firsthand. So when they say parents, you are your children's first teacher, that is absolutely true. Aside from, school. Okay. I have to go back to her comment. I'm going to have to go to their comment and read it again. I already read it for you guys, but let me go back and reread what this person wrote, okay? So basically they were saying how their experience is different. Well, they believe that you can love someone and tell them that you don't see their color, is to sum it up, is what they were saying. And this person is from Africa. And, they said that when they were growing up in Africa, they never saw color. They just saw human beings. It's only when they came to America. Honey, me too. Me too. Me too. I think most Africans can relate to that. Yeah, most Africans can relate. They came here when they were 11. So yeah, again, to sum it up, they feel like someone can tell you they love you without seeing your color. But they are speaking from an African perspective. And I see where they are coming from when they made this comment. But with all respect to their experience, and we all have experiences, and I would never try to take someone's, I'm sorry, it's really sunny in here. I would never try to take someone's experience away from them, right? I would never try to take someone's experience away from them, because I feel there is power in experience. Just like, when you go and you apply to a job, or you are going into a specific career field, even if you have the education, some level of experience is required to a degree. So experience is important. And you never want to dismiss someone's experiences and all of that. But just like this person who commented, I have the exact same experience as well, because I too am an African. And I know exactly what they are talking about. Growing up in many places in Africa, though, race doesn't shape our daily life in the same way that it does here in America. Okay? So race doesn't shape our daily life in Africa the same way that it does here in America. So it makes sense that when this person was living in Africa, they didn't see color, they didn't see race, they just saw people for people, because majority of the people in Africa looks like us. We see people who look like us in power. Um, but when we come to America, we see a lot of people who don't look like us in power. And our lives is then now shaped by race, by skin tone, different from what we had experienced when we were in Africa. So yes, it makes sense that your experience in Africa was different. You didn't see color. You saw people for who they were. But unfortunately, in America here, that's not the case. And you even said it yourself in your comment. So the ways of life are just different. The daily life here is different from being in Africa to America. So it makes 100% sense that things are different for you, as they are for me, as an African as well. You know, here in America, race hysterically has shaped people's lives. You had things like the Jim Crow, segregation. We cannot compare Africa to America. Again, although I respect your experience because I have the same one, honey. I'm sorry, the sun is really bright today. I'm not complaining though. I have the same exact experience as you, but life and everything over there is completely different from just how things are here. So, you know, saying someone saying that the point that I was trying to make in that video was for someone to say that they don't see your skin color, specifically speaking here in America, where again, everything is shaped by race, everything is shaped by color. I didn't make those rules. You didn't make those rules. The system did. The way that things are set up in this country, the way that they've been set up hysterically for centuries, that's just the reality of America. So I didn't make it. I'm just speaking on it, right? I was just saying that for someone to say, I don't see your skin color, when it has caused division hysterically and has shaped people's lives till today, that definitely comes across as being dismissive, and it comes across as overlooking people lived experiences like yours, right? You don't want to ignore people's experiences. Ignoring people's lived experiences, ignoring people's culture, ignoring what has shaped people's daily lives in this country. That's why oftentimes you will hear people like myself, that was, you know, that's why I said there's always room to grow. That's why you will hear a lot of people a lot of Africans or even whites would say things like, you know, specifically speaking, Black Americans, they would say, oh, they're always talking about race. You know, they make everything about race. I've even heard a white person say things like they always using the race card. For some reason, they always have to bring up the race card. They always have to use race in one way, shape, or form. And the sad reality is that people didn't choose that. That's just the reality of what is going on here in America. When your entire existence becomes a problem, when you see that being incorporated into the system or into just interpersonal situations, yeah, it's hard not to speak on these things. It's hard not to acknowledge these things, especially when we are speaking history, right? When we're speaking hysterically. So we can't dismiss what other people are going through just because maybe we don't understand or we haven't been through it, or because of what was televised, you know. So just like here in America, back in Africa, there is a lot of misconceptions. And I've said this one before. where, for instance, homelessness, a lot of people, a lot of Africans, a lot of foreigners are shocked when they come to America and they see homeless people. Why? Because that's just not something that you see or hear of back home. It is televised. It is a misconception. It is this misguided idea that in America is basically like being in heaven. Everything is clean. Everything is perfect. There's no flies. There's no bugs. Bugs? What are bugs? I'm sorry, y'all. The sun is shining a lot. So y'all can't see me very well. But what are bugs, right? That is something that you don't know until you come here. And then on the flip side of it, people here, they are under the misconception that all that there is in Africa is poverty. All that there is in Africa is, to sum it up, poverty. That's what a lot of people see. A lot of people don't see that there are wealthy Africans. There are wealthy areas, just like here in America, What a lot of people also fail to realize is that a lot of African countries, a lot of foreign countries are poor because of America. Whether if it's them bringing war or getting involved in things in said countries that we did not want their involvement in one way, shape, or form. Imperialism has conquered many countries and have left them where they are today. The countries that are now considered the third world countries, who have been stripped of everything, their ideas, their resources, you name it, has been a direct reflection of what was stolen. So when you take everything from people, from a place, and you bring everything to where you are, it would make sense that those people will want what you have, not in the sense that they want what you have, but you took what they have, and now they're left without. So that's why you have immigration, because many people are left without. What people had, they no longer have, because their resources, their lands, you name it, have been stolen. And it's all been brought here. So it'll make sense that many people will want to come to America because they don't have the opportunities, they don't have the resources anymore, the things that they need anymore, because it has all been stolen and brought here. Imperialism, as I said earlier. So anyway, long story short, even if someone means love when they say I don't see color, it definitely does feel like they are taking away people's realities that they face because of their skin color and their race. It just feels like you're overlooking and you're dismissing what a group of people go through. So to love me is to acknowledge my color, is to acknowledge my heritage, is to acknowledge my culture, is to acknowledge my lived experiences that may be different from yours. So don't dismiss my skin tone. Love all of it. Love this black, melanated, love all of me, right? Love every part of me, but also love every part of me while acknowledging everything that comes with me, if that makes sense. So don't dismiss my color or my race, okay? Take all of me. to further go on what they were saying, you know, there's a book, I don't remember the name of the book, but there's this book that talks about Africans and race. The character in the book does not identify as black. Okay? The character in the book does not identify as black, but just African. And many Africans can relate to this. Oftentimes, and I'll be the first person to say it. I identify as African. I don't identify as anything other than African. Okay, so in this book, this person identifies as African because that's what they are. That's what they've always identified as, even when they lived in Africa, African. But they realized quickly that when they came to America, they were no longer being looked at as an African. They had to change basically their roots, their heritage, who they are, and they had to then identify as basically a Black American. But you know, they didn't believe that they were a Black American because their entire life they've always identified as African because that's what they are. But I say all that to say is when you know, the experiences with Africans and Black Americans, if you will, are different. The lived experiences are different. So as an African, when you come here, the things that you're going to see, of course, they're going to be different than what you saw when you were back home. Whereas in Africa, you may have saw unity, you may have saw nobody's color, you may have saw people for who they are. You may not have seen the things that you see when you come to America. You learn real quickly that in America, a lot of what they experience here, especially as a Black person, their experiences are deeply rooted, unfortunately, in race, in division, you know, whether if it's hysterically or currently, you know, look at our current administration. So your experience in Africa would be different from what it is here. But anyway, so this person came to America in the book. They came to America as an African. They realized really quickly that they couldn't just identify anymore as an African, because when you come to America, you are considered just Black. You are considered just Black. They don't, there's no separate lines. There's no, you're an African and you're Black American. Oftentimes it is us Africans that have these ideologies. White Americans don't have that. It is, it is Africans and Black Americans that have these ideologies, this separate of being, if you will. So you have Africans who come here still wanting to be identified as an African because, you know, you're an African, right? That's what you've always identified as your entire life. But when you come to America, white Americans will then consider you as just Black. And you're like, whoa, 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 but I am African. And then Black Americans will consider you as African. So us as people who have the same skin tone, regardless if we were born in America or not, we're basically kind of going at it with each other, if you will. Because on one hand, white Americans are like, you're Black. Us Africans are like, no, I'm not. I'm African. Black Americans are like, yeah, you are African. You are African. So you know, it's just different when you are here. So, but this person realized quickly, as they said in the book, you know, they realized really quickly when they came to America that America do not care. As long as you have dark skin like mine, you are considered to be Black. There's no such a thing as African. They don't even, man, I've been saying this for so many years. They don't even acknowledge you as an African. You're Black. So stop trying to think that you're any different. Stop trying to identify with something else other than Black, because that's how white America, or even just people who were born here, even Black America, that's how, Black America does not view you as that. They view you as an African. whereas white Americans just view you as black. So, so there's no such a thing as an African once you land foot in America. Okay. I've noticed this for years. Black Americans, if you will, Black Americans, they hyper focus on Africans or the Africanness of a person when you're African. While white people could care less, all they see is you're black. So this whole idea, and I think oftentimes some people some Africans try to use the fact that they're African as a way to maybe make themselves feel that they are better than Black Americans. Many times Africans and Black Americans are going against one another, you know. And many Africans can acknowledge this very fact, or have been called this at some point. I know that when I was younger, growing up here in America, I was called this, along with many other Africans. African booty scratcher. That was a big one. So much so, we were called those names by people who literally looked like us, while they're being shunned down on for being black by a country that never saw their worth. So while Black Americans are calling Africans African booty scratchers, and that term comes from them watching stuff on TV where they see nothing but poverty. They see kids who are living on the street, who are supposedly scratching their butts. That term literally was ingrained in Black Americans' heads that this is what it means to be an African. So when we come here, you will have Black Americans who look exactly like us making comments such as African booty scratcher, because what has been televised to our Black Americans peers is that Africa is nothing but poverty. And that's what they see. That's what they align with. So when they see an African, they have nothing but the names, and it just goes on and on. But while they're doing this, while they're looking down on Africans, the funny part is white America don't love you. They shun you down, and they don't even acknowledge you as people. They don't even see your worth. So you got Africans and Black Americans basically going at it. You know, I will say, in a sense, sadly, unfortunately, and I, as an African, I am not proud to say this, but many times there are so many Africans, and I'm not one of them, there are Africans who do, in a sense, believe that they are better, they're more superior because of what was televised to them, because of what was shown to them. You know, there's this idea that Black Americans are bad people. They are thieves. They're criminals. They are what is it? They're harmful. You name it. These are the ideas that were put into our heads. While on the flip side, the ideas that were put into Black Americans' heads, Africans are poor, Africans are booty scratchers, Africans, they stink, Africans are this, Africans are that. So there's this weird war with Black Americans and Africans when it really comes down to it. We're all just connected. We're all one. We're all one. So it's like when you come, when we back to what I was saying earlier about that book, you know, when the person came to America, they realized really quickly, you know, how when you come here as an African, it's like your heritage and everything that makes you, you, has been fully accepted into the class of blackness. Like you're black. That's just what it is, you know? So yes, to answer that person's question, or not question, their comment, your experience is valid. Your experience is respected. Your experience is understood. But then on the flip side, understand that it makes sense that things were different back in Africa than they are here. Because everything in America, of course, is rooted in segregation. It is rooted in racism, imperialism, colonization. So it's different. It's different here than it would have been in Africa, or it's different here than it is in Africa. Oftentimes, Africans don't really talk about racism. And as an African, I would know this. Africans don't really talk about racism. Black people do. Black Americans do. And obviously, like I said, you know, is because the experiences are different. Back in Africa, we see people that look like us in power. Whereas in America, that's a rare sight. I mean, it was just not that many years ago. What, maybe, how many years? Like 19 years, 18, 19 years since the last president was in, or got elected in America. That wasn't that long ago at all. That was the same year that my son was born here in America. So it really wasn't that long ago. So Africans and racism, Africans do not talk about race. They don't talk about racism. And as an African, like I said, I would know this. For many Africans, you know, they see the white man as the originator. That's the truth. You're not going to see a lot of Africans speaking on racism the way that I do. And I'm able to speak on it. And I said this before. I'm able to speak on racism the way that I'm able to because I've experienced it heavily. Like face first. Face first, you can't ignore it. It's in your face. It's right there. It's staring you in the face. And you're like, what the heck is this? I've never experienced this before. What are you talking about? How do I move away from this? How does this make me feel? What is this? You're trying to make sense of what you're experiencing. I went through all of that stage. And not every African goes through that. So I have experienced exactly what Black Americans experience. Not many Africans experience what I experienced because maybe they're just not put into situations as such that I have been put into. But that's just my experience. Not many Africans have experienced what I've experienced, so it's hard for them to resonate or to fully understand racism in America because it's just not something that we deal with in Africa. But you will deal with it here. You will deal with it here. I believe the reason why so many of us Africans, we don't talk about racism. Man, we have enough going on. We have enough going on in Africa. You know, we don't have time to focus on the whole race discussion. But that is a dangerous place to be in. Because even though we may not be experiencing racism in Africa firsthand, like Black Americans do here in America, we have to understand the history of racism. We have to understand the effects of racism, even if we live abroad, even if we live in Africa, even if we are Africans who live in America. We have to understand the effects of that because it affects us. Because of imperialism, a lot of what we're experiencing back home is due to racism. But because we are so hyper-focused on everything else, which is part of why we're going through what we're going through, but because we fail to educate ourselves on racism and how that is affecting people abroad, like in America, we fail to realize because of these systems that are in place and how it's affecting our brothers and sisters here in America, we fail to realize that those same systems are what is keeping us stagnant, is what is keeping us from improving, from growing, from being where we need to be. So it is very important that Africans start to understand racism and have the race talk. I know it's hard when we have so many other things to worry about. You know, we're busy fighting our bad roads, electricity, you know, a corrupt government, poor health care. But remember, all of this is due to the fact we've still got racism going on. These things are still affecting our daily lives. That's why it is so important to acknowledge what is happening to our brothers and sisters here in America, because if we're going to go far, we can't go alone. We have to come together. We have to understand these things. We have to educate ourselves. So it's cute to maybe look at racism as just a Black American thing because you don't live in America. It's cute to maybe disassociate yourself with Black Americans and say, well, I'm African. But remember, all the while you're doing that, there are systems in place to keep you stagnant, to not really grow. I don't care if you got a master's degree. I could tell you, your white peer is going to get up on the ladder quicker than you will. I don't care how educated you come to America, you become. You are still Black in America. America does not view you as an African. You're not ranking top tier. They're not looking at you as some kind of goddess or king because you're African. They look at you as Black. They're going to treat you as Black. So to ignore racism is to ignore the things that are keeping you from growing, even if you feel like you are growing. Okay? Even if you feel like you are growing and you feel like these things don't affect you. Oh, honey, they do. Pay attention. Pay attention. So we often, as Africans, we neglect the racism talk. We do. We do. See, the difference with Africans and Black Americans and why it is so hard for Africans to really, truly understand racism is because racism was not born through our intuition like it was for Black Americans. Black Americans have learned to be intuitive with their surroundings, with history, you know, experiences their family members have went through, things they go through. Whereas for us Africans, you know, our experiences, and this is so true, our experiences are primarily through acquaintance, you know. Whereas for Black Americans, these are things that are literally in their family. This is generational. You know, they have grandmothers who have experienced this. They have great grandmothers, great grandfathers. They have direct people that they can link to who have went through segregation, who have went through racism. It is deeply embedded within their identity. Whereas for us Africans, we're only really going to experience racism through acquaintances. Like for me, I'm a prime example of that. I have to wholeheartedly and truthfully say I probably wouldn't have really known racism to the degree that I know it as today if I wouldn't have went through what I've went through with being married to someone who is white. Boom, 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 bada boom. You know, I probably wouldn't have, because I met my husband when I was 19. 19. I didn't know racism until 19. Like, I didn't fully understood what that meant. I don't think I even, yeah, I did not understand that. So I've came to learn racism through literally an acquaintance type thing. I don't think if that would have happened, I would have truly fully understood what that looks like. I would have still been living in my little, you know, Black Americans. I don't know, right? I wouldn't have had the awareness that I do now, which, you know, sometimes we look at the negative of things. I look at that as a positive, even though it's sad and blah, blah. It's been also a blessing because it's opened my eyes to America. It's given me a broader understanding to how this country work and people and my Black peers, and you know, it's given me a deeper understanding to history in America, and I've experienced it firsthand. So, you know, oftentimes as an African, and man, I've been wanting to talk about this for so long. I'm so glad this person commented this. I gotta get going soon here though, guys. But oftentimes as an African, because we don't fully understand racism, we don't understand what that whole world looks like. We oftentimes ignore microaggressions. Like, you speak good English. Man, so many people tell me that, and I find that offensive. You know, maybe take me back to when I was younger at like 19 and someone said, "Oh, you speak great English." I would have took that as a compliment. You know, it would have been flattering. "Oh my gosh, you think I speak good English," right? Microaggression. What do you mean I speak good? Can I not speak good English? So I find that offensive. See, as an African, if you don't understand the system and you don't understand racism in America and you don't understand how certain things are said and how certain things are done to keep us stagnant, to look down on us, to degrade us, to demean us, we just think everything is just all peaches and cream. But when you have an African like myself who is educated and who I consider myself as grounded and understanding, we don't take microaggressions like that as a compliment. We don't take those comments lightly. We don't look at that as flattering. We view that as, I can't speak good English? Wait, Do you tell that to people that look like you, that they speak good English? What's the problem? Why is it an issue if I speak good English? You know, just like with any other language, you can learn it. So it's not a compliment as an African if, you know, someone tells you, oh, you speak good English. And so, or, you know, a comment like you're so articulate, implying it is unusual for someone of our race or skin tone to be intelligent. The sad thing is that oftentimes as an African, we literally view these microaggressions as flattering. You ever come across a white person who, as soon as they see you, they start shutting their car door or they clutch their purse if you're going by? Those are microaggressions from my Africans who don't understand, who are not paying attention. Wake up. This is how they view you. This is how they look at you. You know, you come across a white person who, as soon as they see you, beep, beep, they're honking their car a million times to lock their car doors because in their eyes, you're a criminal. In their eyes, you are threatening to their lives. But because you're so gone, you're so carried away with thinking that you're an African and you're not like them, you're for some reason different, whereas white America does not view you differently. You're living in La La Land. You're living in La La Land thinking that you're different because you are African. They don't view you any different than a Black American who was born here. You are Black. When you enter America as an African, you are Black. There's no such a thing as, oh, you are African. Being an African does not make you superior, does not make you better, does not make you different. As long as you're in America and you have this skin tone, you're Black. Point blank, period. There's no difference. Black Americans continuously talk about race, which I'm glad that they do. And us Africans, and I've been loving the whole movement of Africans coming out and thanking Black Americans because we owe it to them. We owe it to Black Americans. You know, if it wasn't for people like Dr. King, you know, Harriet Tubman, you know, all these amazing people in history who have shaped America, Black Americans who have shaped America, they have been the stepping stone. They are the reason why we have the opportunities that we have today. Because again, when you enter in America as an African, you are viewed as Black, okay? You are not being looked at as any different. So we owe it to the Black Americans who fought for our rights to even give us the opportunities that we even have today to be able to have the opportunities that we have, to have the life that we have here in America. If Black Americans wouldn't have fought the good fight, we wouldn't be where we are today. So this idea that they are threatening to our existence, this idea that Black Americans are a problem, they're violent, they're criminals. Let's also remember that if it wasn't for Black Americans, we wouldn't have the opportunities as Africans. We wouldn't have the opportunities that we have today. So we owe it to Black Americans who have fought, okay, for equal rights, for us to have the opportunities that we have today, regardless of what white Americans may have brainwashed us into believing. Vice versa. Black Americans, they talk about race because it's their lived reality. Africans, we don't, because we're happy to just have a seat at any table. We're happy to just have a seat at any table. We don't even care. We just, we're just living in La La Land, you know? We're just happy, you know? We just disregard what those tables come with. We're just happy we're at a table. Let's say that. We're just happy we're at a table. We disregard what those tables come with. We're just glad we're at a table. Whereas our Black Americans are like, okay, I'm at the table, but am I going to be given those same opportunities now that I'm at this table? Or am I going to be treated differently because of what I look like on the exterior? And then you got Africans. I'm at a table. I'm at a table. Okay, you're at a table. That's great. I'm glad. I'm happy for you. Many times, as Africans, we ignore interpersonal racism. I have to say, I'll have to raise my hand. I did actually for a long time because I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it meant. When it first started happening to me, I'm like, what do you say? What do you do? Like, but because I have had deep relationships with Black Americans in my life, and this is why it's so important to make connections with people outside of where you come from, outside of, your culture, or, outside of where you come from, because I have had deeply rooted relationships with Black Americans, I have learned that the stereotypes, the things that they say about Black Americans are just that. They're stereotypes. Anybody can be a bad person. Anybody can be a criminal. Anybody can be violent. Anybody can be terrible. You name it. People are people. And that's why I also have the ideologies and I have the worldview lens that I do now. I wouldn't have if I wouldn't have been around Black Americans or had the experiences that I have had. But oftentimes, though, as Africans, we do ignore interpersonal racism. We ignore them. We will sometimes even ignore systematic racism. Many times we're just glad to earn that degree, because where we come from, getting that far without any sort of money is almost impossible. Whereas in America, there are opportunities, there's scholarships, there's things that you can do to be able to get a good education. For instance, here in America, parents don't have to pay upfront for their kids to go to school. In Africa, your parents have to pay upfront for you to go to school. Your uniform, your books, you name it. Those things need to be paid for upfront for you to continue your education. Whereas in America, your parents don't have to pay upfront. So for Africans, just being here, that's enough. So we ignore a lot of the things that are hindering us, that are hurting us, because we're just glad to be here. But we don't realize we could be so much further if we understood racism, if we understood what that looks like, how it's hurting us, how it's hurting our peers, those around us, how it's going to hurt our generations to come. And it's not even just hurting Africans, Black Americans, if you will. It's also hurting white Americans. It's hurting all of us. And until we all start to understand racism and we talk more about it and we work actively to end this ideology that someone is superior or better because of their skin tone, we are going to remain stagnant. So we need to understand racism and what that looks like and how it affects all of us, not just Black people, also white people as well. So 9 times out of 10 as an African, we ignore microaggressions, even when it's staring us right in our faces, Not getting to the top of a career that we work really hard for, We can be qualifying, overqualified, We can be getting underpaid than our white peers. Because we refuse to acknowledge racism, we are refusing to acknowledge the very things that hurt us every single day. We are refusing to understand oppression. We are refusing to understand that oppression even exists or that we're even oppressed. Even when it's literally happening right in front of our faces. This is a big problem. This is a big problem. Then what my words can even like communicate. We as Africans, we have put white people on a pedestal. When white people come to our countries, we are, I swear, we're kneeling before them like they are God. Disgusting, absolutely sickening. You know, I believe this type of behavior is what led to so many wars being started in Africa, in African countries, in foreign countries. We are so friendly and very inviting. But there comes a point where there's a difference between friendliness and stupidness. Friendliness and stupidness, okay? It needs to stop. So that's why I really have to hurry up. I gotta go, guys. So Sally, that's when, you know, you see it even in interracial relationships, interracial marriages like mine. When an African marries a white person, it is viewed as some sort of prize, like an accomplishment. Often there's even this misguided information that whites are rich. White is wealth. Let me say that again. White is wealth. They associate whiteness with wealthiness. Africans. To be white is to be wealthy. That's why many Africans are shocked when they come to America and see homelessness, because they don't view America in those lens. They don't view America in those lens. They don't view Americans in those lens. They associate white America with wealth. But that's why, because Black Americans understand racism and understand hysterically what has happened in America. And sometimes you might hear people say, oh, a Black American is being racist. But I've also have seen it from a different lens, whereas because given history, some Black Americans are afraid of their children marrying outside of their race, if you will. They're afraid of their children, their family members marrying white because of racism. Not because they're racist, but because they're afraid of their children or their family members being treated differently, being treated wrong because of their skin color. That's why oftentimes you might see a Black American who might disagree with their children marrying outside of their race, if you will, marrying someone that has a different skin tone. Not because they are racist, but because they are afraid of their children being treated unfairly, being treated different, being looked down upon, being looked at as stupid, as less than, as lazy, as violent, anything you could think of. They're afraid of that. So they try to encourage their children, maybe, just maybe, you might not want to put yourself into that kind of situation. Not because they're racist. But sometimes when you hear a Black American say, I don't want my child or people I know or whatever to marry outside of their race, oftentimes some people might try to say that they're being racist, but I look at it from a different lens. It's protection. They're trying to protect them. They don't want them to find themselves in a situation, to sum it up, like mine. Not because they're racist, though. It's not racism. It's protection. And that's just because of history. In America, racism is deeply tied to the transatlantic slave trade, segregation laws like the Jim Crow. So Black Americans have lived for generations in a system where race determines their social status. So it's not that Black Americans just want to talk about race. Oh my gosh, they make everything about race. Race. No. Black Americans, literally, this is their life. This is the system that they have been living through for generations. And it is still happening today. So we as Africans, we need to have empathy. We need to be understanding, and we need to educate ourselves on the history of racism, on the history of segregation. Until we do these things, we're going to think that we're safe because we're African. Yes, we're Africans. We're from Africa. We were born in Africa, but you're Black when you're in America. And I hope that many Africans will start to resonate. They will start to understand. And I've been seeing it. I've been seeing the movement. Listen, I am proud of my African brothers and sisters for finally starting to stand up and starting to see that we as Africans, we owe so much to Black America. We as Africans, we owe so much to Black America. If it wasn't for Black Americans, we wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't have the opportunities that we have. It's because of Black Americans who have fought for equal rights for us on our behalf. That's why we are where we are today. So to think that we somehow in some way, shape, or form are better than Black Americans because we have been brainwashed that Black Americans are violent, Black Americans are evil, Black Americans are criminals, Black Americans are everything that is bad, because we've been brainwashed in these ways. Until we start to understand that we owe everything that we have today here in America to Black Americans who have fought for our rights, we still have a long way to go. We would truly never grow as people. So as I said, in America, racism is deeply tied to the transatlantic slave trade, right? And segregation, like the Jim Crow era, right? Black Americans, they've lived through this for generations. They've been going through this. So yes, racism, race, all of that will continue to come up because this is their lived experience. We all have our lived experience. This is theirs. So to acknowledge that is important. But in Africa, we grow up as the majority, whereas in America, they do not. Black Americans do not grow up as the majority. Why do they call it? If you're Black American, or if you're Black in America, you are considered what? The minority. They call you a minority. That's how they view us. We are the minority. We are not the mass majority. So in America or in Africa, we are the majority. We see people who look like us, talk like us, live like us, you name it. Whereas in America, that is different. Our daily life in Africa isn't shaped by anti-Black racism. Africans, we have not lived inside of a racial ideology where the way that Black Americans have. So as an African, our historical experience to racism and oppression developed very differently than Black Americans. You know, Black Americans were shaped by slavery and segregation. Us as African, we were shaped by colonization, ethnic politics. Whew, that one. Ethnic politics, all right, which has directly affected me. And my life will never look the same because of that. You know, both of these things, they involve injustice of some sort, but the context is different. Millions of Africans were taken from Africa, brought to America over generations, over a period of time. Whereas, you know, Africans in Africa, we built our own cultures and our nations. Black Americans, they had to develop their new identities and cultures. But to close this, because I gotta go, you guys, this video will be left up, of course, for educational purposes. Sorry that, you know, like, this video is a little blurry. You can't really see me very well because of where I'm sitting. But to sum it up, you know, Black Americans, you know, they grew up in a country that was shaped by slavery, segregation, discrimination, including the laws like I was talking about, like Jim Crow. Black Americans, unlike us Africans, they have a deep racial awareness because their identity was constantly challenged. Africans, we do not. We do not understand that intensity because race did not structure our daily life in the same way that it has for Black Americans. Regardless of the differences, though, we are all connected. That's why I love seeing Black Americans listening to African music, being more in the culture, going and going to ancestry, getting their DNA testing, trying to figure out where exactly in Africa they come from, trying to understand their roots and what was taken from them. We are all connected. We're connected. And the sooner that both sides starts to realize that we're just one, the world even, right? Regardless of even skin tone, if we all just start to realize that we're just people, the world would be a better place. So yeah, to answer that question, the experiences are different. They're very different from the experience that you will see in Africa. What a person in Africa is going through would be different than what a Black person here in America will be going through. Experiences are different. Again, to sum it up, you have Black Americans who for generations have went through segregation, discrimination, racism. They've went through all of these things, whereas for us Africans, you know, we grew up in Africa. We are around people who look like us, who talk like us, who are in power, right? It's not our first time seeing someone be a president in Africa who is Black. In America, they just got their first Black president, 18, 19 years ago? I was here. You know, my oldest son is about to be 18. So put these things into perspective, right? It wasn't that long ago. America just got its first Black president. So these things are still happening today. So that's why when people are like, well, racism or slavery happened so long ago. No, it didn't. Do your history. It did not. Search up, learn, educate yourself. Slavery was not that long ago. And although slavery may not be literally happening right before our eyes, sadly, there are systematic racism. There are things that are in place to keep us stagnant in many ways than not. So what can you do? Awareness. Understand that we are one, Black and white alike. Doesn't matter. This video is not just for Black Americans, Africans, Black Americans, understanding that whites, understanding that we are all just one. I feel that's the only way we can truly move forward. Understanding that people are exactly that, they're people. There are Black Americans who are violent. There are Africans who are violent. There are white people who are violent. There are Mexicans, Asians who are violent, who are non-violent. People are exactly that. People are people. And until we understand these things, we won't grow as a society. And talking about racism is not keeping racism alive. You can't fix something that you refuse to acknowledge, that you refuse to fix, that you refuse to talk about. Let's go back to what I just said. You can't fix something that you refuse to acknowledge. Okay? If someone have an eating disorder and they refuse to acknowledge that they have an eating disorder, how will they ever fix that eating disorder if they refuse to acknowledge that they have an eating disorder? They refuse to acknowledge that. You can't fix something. You can't get onto a better road, onto a journey of healing, onto a journey of doing better, being better, living better, if you refuse to acknowledge that racism still exists, that these things are still happening. Systematic racism. Microaggression is a huge one. It is still happening today, every single day. every day. That's a big one. That's a huge one for me personally speaking. That is big. These things are still happening. So we can't fully move forward if we want to ignore that these things exist. So talking about racism is 100% necessary in order for us to move forward. And this is not just for Africans, Black Americans, Asians, Mexicans. This is for everybody. This is for everyone. Whether you're living here in America, you're living abroad, until we all understand racism and what that looks like and how it impacts not one of us, but all of us, we won't truly move forward. We are going to continue to have the issues, the problems that we continue to see today, because we're failing to acknowledge that these things, they still exist. So Africans, we're not better than Black Americans. White is not wealth. White people are not better. They're not put on a pedestal because of their skin complexion. Black people are not below because of their skin complexion. So in closing, and I'm sure most of you know this because you're here, people are people. People are going to be people. Respect others. Try to have an understanding of other people's worldviews, of other people's lived experiences. Even if you don't live here, even if you weren't born here, experiences don't lie. We're all people. Try to understand what other people are going through or what they might have went through. We cannot truly end racism. We cannot truly do better as a society, move away from these disgusting ideologies that somebody is better or superior because of their skin tone, if we fail to have these conversations. This is not race baiting. This is not playing the victim. This is not the race card. This is saying that these conversations are important in order for us to grow as a society. These discussions are important for us to move forward as a society, for us to be in a better place. If it wasn't for people fighting, marching, protesting, we wouldn't even have any sort of improvement. We wouldn't be where we are today as a society. It has, and these people marching, people like Dr. King, protesting, all these important voices in Black history has not just impacted us Black people and has helped us in one way, shape, or form, but it's also helped white America as well. It also has helped white people. It has helped all of us collectively. So until we understand that none of us are free, until we are all free, none of us will be respected until we're all respected. None of us will be properly loved, properly accepted until we're all accepted. We will never get to where we need to be as a society. Because to treat people fairly, to treat people with respect, to treat people with love, to treat people with kindness, to treat people with the same equalness, the same equality, is to treat all of us the same. We all benefit in the long run. The minute everything becomes a problem is when you think that for some reason you are better than the next, when we are all people. Which is why you have so many things happening in the government to try to put people against each other. We, the people, need to be for the people. We need to be for each other. When one of our friends fall, we need to be able to bring them back up. None of us are better than the next person. I have to go. God bless you guys, and see you guys in the next video.